Hey everyone, I am so excited to be with you guys tonight in House Churches. It's incredible to know that we have pockets of people all across South Mississippi, all across the world, even through Church Online, that are coming together and are leaning in on what we're going to be studying tonight, what we're going to be diving into. So last Sunday, we had an opportunity to talk about this message called Blessing in a Basket. And we walked through the story of Exodus chapter 1. If you haven't had a chance to go back and watch it, I highly encourage you, download the Venture Church app, grab that message, watch it when you get a chance, and would love for you to comment and let us know your thoughts about everything there as well. But tonight, I want to take a little bit of a different approach. I want to walk through those 4 key elements of the journey of blessing that we talked about on Sunday. The first one is this. We talked about blessing. All right, we talked a lot about what a blessing really looks like, the anatomy of a blessing, if you will. I don't know about you, but I grew up thinking that blessing was a lot of what I was supposed to get, right? What my life was supposed to look like. But through Exodus 1 and the story that we see of the children of Israel, we see that their blessing matched up with not just what they had, but whose they were. And so tonight, I want you to talk about that. I want you to have an opportunity to flesh this out. What does it look like to focus our blessing on the blessing giver, on God? What does your blessing look like in your life right now? If you had to pause and say, this is what a blessing is to me, I want you to talk about it and communicate around about it. So take just a moment in this time, pause this video, and we're gonna give you space. Your house church pastor is gonna have questions on what a blessing is, what it looks like, and how we are to live our lives knowing that the blessing giver is what's important, not just the things that we have. So pause this video, and your house church pastor will take over. Hey, so welcome back. I hope you had some incredible conversation around blessings and what those look like, how we're supposed to view blessings. But the second thing I want us to look at is the other side of that coin, right? Because we can have seasons of blessing and they feel really good and all of that good stuff, but there's also seasons of burden. This is what we see in Exodus chapter 1. Where because of the blessing, even because they were so fruitful, the children of Israel were, and they multiplied so greatly that Pharaoh, one that didn't know Joseph in his story, ended up putting the entire nation, the children of Israel, into slavery. And he wanted to burden them. It says that he dealt shrewdly with them. He put overt burdens on their lives. And some of the things that we learned is that sometimes our seasons of blessings can diminish by degrees. And so I want to ask you this question. Have you noticed sometimes in your life where those blessings that you thought you had or the life when it was feeling really good just started to diminish little by degrees? What did those seasons of burden look like in your life? This is an opportunity for you in your house church to get really vulnerable. And I want to challenge you to do so. These people that you see around you right now, they love you, they for you. And so I want you to lean in on this. And your house church pastor's got some questions to talk more about what this looks like and how we are to unpack this idea of burden and how blessing can even be found in the midst of that burden. So take a few moments, pause this video right now, and let your house church take over as you talk about what seasons of burden look like. Hey, I know it can be difficult to talk about the burdens in our life. I want to thank you for your vulnerability, your willingness to go to that place. It's not easy to do, but I can tell you, man, whenever we do that, James says when we confess to one another, that healing is brought. And so I appreciate you for being vulnerable in that moment. But the last thing that we talk about, right? We've talked about what blessings look like. We've talked about the burdens in our own life, but we don't want to stay there. We don't want to just sit in that moment and not bring ourselves out of it and to remember that the blessing giver is what this is all about in the end, right? It's all about Jesus. It's all about the Lord in our lives. It's not about the things that we have. So what is the key element of that? Well, on Sunday, we talked about how belief is that element, right? Belief is the soil that the seed of blessing can take root in. And I want to challenge you in that and encourage you and say that maybe you don't feel like there's any blessing anywhere in your life. You're looking around and it's just by the hair on your chinny chin chin that you made it to house church tonight. And that there was no other reason other than just pure luck that you made it because life is so hard. But I want to encourage you, stay connected in the community. Stay in places that can bring belief. Why? Because the children of Israel, they had the midwives. The midwives are those people that stand in the gap for you, and they help bring out that belief, help bring out that blessing, even in the moments where you don't feel it. I love that Exodus 1 says that the midwives were women who feared God. They didn't fear Pharaoh. They didn't fear the people that were out against them. They feared God. And this is the community that you have right now in your house church. This is the opportunity that you have to lean in on the midwives of your life and to say, all right, I'm going to lean in on you because I don't got it right now. I don't got it, but you can help me. And there are people in your house church pastor, the people around you that can stand in the gap for you and say, hey, look, even when you're not feeling it, even when you feel like it's just burden on burden on burden, we are going to help build that soil, cultivate that soil of belief. That's what happens in house church. Every time that we come together, and when we get the kids ready and everything's nuts, but we get there, that's cultivating that soil of belief a little bit more. And that seed begins to be sown, of that seed of blessing begins to be sown. And then ultimately, we're led to the basket. Right? I love how in Exodus 2, we are introduced to Moses, who is going to lead the people and the children of Israel out of Egypt. He's going to lead them on the Exodus, but it all started in the very place where the children of Israel were experiencing the most burden. That blows my mind, is that Moses' mom put him into the Nile, but she released the blessing that she wanted so that she could receive the blessing that God had intended for her all along. Now, there's one key element to this that I want to bring, and we weren't able to really dive too much into it on Sunday, but you're here at House Church, so we can go into it a little bit more. But think about the baskets in your life. Think about how to form that basket. What does it take? You know, this is absolutely a metaphor, but how can we take the baskets, right, of our lives? How can we start to shape them? I love that Exodus 2 actually said how Moses' mom went about building the basket, because there's intentionality there. That's why we have a process here at Venture. We have a system here at Venture where you can be involved in building your basket and taking these moments and saying, hey, I'm going to serve, I'm going to protect, I'm going to bring people around me, I'm going to invite friends in. Even when I don't feel like it, I'm still going to lean in on this model. I'm still going to lean in on this process, and you're doing that tonight. So I want to encourage you and say this, man, that God is moving. He's moving in you. And even when you don't feel like it, when you feel like you're in the middle of a burden, that God is initiating a new blessing in your life. And so right now in this moment, you have an opportunity. We're going to pause this video once again. And here's what I want you to talk about. Your house church pastor is equipped with some questions to walk through this. But the ultimate question is this: how are you building your basket? How are you building the basket in your life that's going to carry that blessing to the place that God has intended it to be? So think about that. Your house church pastor is going to bring some questions to help us build those baskets together. But then at the very end, you're going to want to hang on, come right back here, unpause the video, because our worship team has done another song, a phenomenal song called All Hail King Jesus, that we're going to be able to lean into tonight here at House Church. And it speaks a lot to what we've been talking about this week about blessings and burdens and how we can have blessing in a basket, right? How God's greatest gifts can come in the smallest of packages. So come back here, lean in on that. You don't have to stand and raise your hands and sing, but let this moment be a moment where you lean into who God is and let him talk to you. Let him minister to you as we sing this song together.
There was a moment when the lights went out, when death acclaimed its victory. The King of Love had given up his life, the darkest day in history. There on a cross they made for sinners, for every curse his blood atoned. One final breath and it was finished, but not the end we could have known. For the earth began to shake, and the veil was torn. One sacrifice was made.